Tuesday's episode of Days of Our Lives may not open with instant chaos, but it definitely feels like one of those episodes where the emotional pressure starts building fast, and once it does, the fallout may reach much further than anyone expects. What makes this chapter so interesting is that almost every storyline seems to be carrying hidden tension. An awkward reunion could reopen feelings that were never fully resolved. A romantic moment may come with more risk than comfort. Jealous curiosity could start slipping into obsession. And one cold decision may create a brand new enemy at exactly the wrong time. So while Tuesday may seem quieter on the surface, this could actually be one of the most important setup episodes of the week. Let's break it all down, because Salem may be heading into much deeper trouble than it first appears. Tuesday's episode may place Chad DiMera at the emotional center right away, because his return does not feel designed as a smooth homecoming. It feels designed to test the air around him. With Connor Floyd stepping into the role, every early scene matters. Viewers will naturally be watching for more than dialogue. They will be watching body language, tone, hesitation, and chemistry. And that is exactly why the show giving Chad an awkward reunion with Kat feels so intentional. This is not the kind of setup that says, "Welcome back, everything is familiar." It says the opposite. It says Chad is walking back into unfinished emotional territory. What makes that especially effective is that Days of Our Lives rarely uses awkwardness as filler. In Salem, awkward scenes usually mean someone is holding back, someone is unsettled, or something unresolved is pressing against the surface. Chad and Kat may keep the exchange controlled, but that restraint may be what makes it more loaded. A careful tone can sometimes reveal more tension than an open argument. There is also a bigger question hanging over Chad's return. Has he really come back to the same Salem he left behind? Probably not. Time away changes the person who leaves, but it also changes the people waiting back home. That means Chad may not just be reconnecting with Kat. He may be confronting a new emotional reality that no longer fits the version of Salem he remembers. So this reunion may not be explosive, but it could still carry real weight. If the scene lands properly, it will not need big drama to make an impact. It only needs that unmistakable feeling that something between these two never fully settled. While Chad's return brings discomfort, Philip and Gabby seem to be stepping into something warmer. But on a soap, warmth is rarely simple. Their romantic scenes on Tuesday may look like a brief escape from the episode's heavier emotional tension. That is exactly why they matter. Moments like this often arrive not just to soften the mood, but to strengthen audience investment before the story gets more complicated. And Philip and Gabby are not the kind of couple that naturally exists in a calm, protected bubble. Gabby brings intensity into every relationship she is in. Philip, meanwhile, is almost never allowed to stay in a peaceful emotional lane for long. So when the show gives them space to connect, it may be doing more than highlighting chemistry. It may be quietly raising the value of what could later be threatened. That is what makes this pairing feel interesting rather than merely sweet. Their dynamic has edge. Even when they are close, there is still a sense that both characters come with history, baggage, and the potential for sudden complications. That creates a more layered romantic energy. It is not just tenderness. It is tenderness with tension underneath it. Tuesday may use these scenes to suggest that Philip and Gabby are becoming more emotionally real to each other. And if that is true, then the timing matters. The stronger the connection becomes now, the more vulnerable it becomes later. So this may be one of those story beats that feels soft on the surface, but functions as setup underneath. The romance is important, yes, but so is the possibility that the show is asking viewers to appreciate it now because it may not stay this easy for long. Leo's material on Tuesday may bring a sharper kind of entertainment, because his decision to stop Javi's new boyfriend online is exactly the kind of behavior that can play as funny and uncomfortable at the same time. On the surface, this is classic Leo: intrusive, dramatic, and incapable of minding his own business. That gives the scenes natural comic potential. But underneath the humor is a much less funny truth. Leo is affected, deeply. That is what makes this spoiler stronger than it first appears. This is not just a nosy ex being messy for the sake of it. It is someone reacting to replacement. And that emotional trigger tends to hit a very specific nerve: comparison. When Leo starts digging into Javi's new man, he is not simply gathering information. He is measuring himself against someone else. He is trying to decode what Javi sees there, what he no longer sees in Leo, and whether Leo was easier to leave behind than he wants to believe. That is where the storyline becomes more revealing. What may make these scenes work especially well is Leo's tendency to protect himself with attitude. He can turn pain into sarcasm very quickly, which means the audience may get humor on the outside while still sensing hurt underneath. That duality gives the material more dimension. It allows Leo to be messy without becoming flat. And if Tuesday leans into that emotional contradiction, the storyline could become one of the episode's most quietly effective threads. Because the real issue is not that Leo is snooping. It is that snooping may be the clearest sign yet that he has not emotionally let go. In fact, he may be far more shaken by Javi moving on than he is ready to admit, especially to himself. Then there is EJ, whose decision to throw Gwen out of the Demera mansion may end up carrying more weight than the episode first lets on. On the surface, this looks like a straightforward power move. EJ sees a problem, draws a boundary, and removes the person he no longer wants under his roof. But with EJ, actions like this are rarely practical in a simple sense. They are symbolic. They are about authority, dominance, and control. More than that, they are about reminding everyone around him that access to his world is conditional, and he is the one who sets the terms. For Gwen, being forced out is not just inconvenient. It is humiliating. It strips away comfort, status, and security all at once. And in a soap, humiliation tends to be more combustible than anger. Anger can flare and fade. Humiliation lingers. It sharpens memory. It makes retaliation feel personal. EJ may believe he is regaining control by pushing Gwen out, but characters in his position often make the same mistake. They focus on the immediate victory and ignore the emotional aftershock. A wounded outsider can become far more threatening than an irritated insider. Once someone is cut off, embarrassed, and left with nothing to protect, they often stop thinking defensively and start thinking strategically. So Tuesday's tension may not come from the act itself, but from what that act sets in motion. Gwen being removed from the mansion may actually reposition her in the story, not as someone diminished, but as someone newly unpredictable. And that could make EJ's cold decision feel far less like the end of a problem and much more like the start of one. After all the ego, jealousy, romance, and shifting power plays, Theo's material may land in a very different register, softer on the surface, but potentially more painful underneath. His hope that Lexi will come back to him may be the gentlest thread in Tuesday's episode, yet it also feels like the one most likely to stay with viewers after the hour ends. What makes this storyline so effective is that it does not need big confrontation to carry emotional weight. Theo is not fighting anyone. He is not scheming. He is not forcing the story forward through conflict. Instead, he is doing something much more vulnerable. He is choosing to keep believing. Theo's hope clearly gives him something to hold on to. It keeps the possibility of reunion alive. It gives shape to a future he is not ready to lose. In emotional terms, that hope protects him. It allows him to keep moving without fully collapsing under grief or uncertainty. But the same hope that sustains him can also make him fragile, especially if reality refuses to meet him halfway. That is the painful balance this storyline may be exploring. The audience understands why Theo cannot let go. In many ways, they may not want him to let go either. They want the miracle with him. They want the emotional payoff. But wanting something deeply does not make it any less uncertain, and Tuesday may lean into that uncomfortable space where love keeps waiting even when there is no guarantee waiting will be enough. That is why Theo's scenes could become the emotional core of the episode. Not because they are the loudest, but because they are the most exposed. Hope, when it has nowhere solid to land, can become its own kind of heartbreak. And if Tuesday captures that correctly, Theo may end up carrying the episode's most human and most quietly devastating story. So overall, Tuesday, April 21st looks like an episode driven less by loud twists and more by emotional pressure that keeps tightening scene by scene. Chad and Kat may prove that unfinished history does not stay buried for long. Philip and Gabby may get a romantic moment that feels both genuine and slightly fragile. Leo may reveal just how far he is from moving on. EJ may create a new problem while thinking he is solving one. And Theo may remind viewers that sometimes the quietest storyline is the one that hurts the most. That is what makes this episode worth watching closely. It is not just setting up what happens next. It is showing us where each character is emotionally weakest, and in Salem, that is usually where the real trouble begins. So what do you think will have the biggest impact on Tuesday's episode? Chad and Kat's awkward reunion? Leo's obsession over Javi's new man? Or Theo's painful hope for Lexi? Let me know in the comments below. And if you enjoy detailed Days of Our Lives spoilers and deeper story analysis, do not forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you do not miss the next update.